What if there were a Pokemon region based on Latin America? Well, we can find out what that might look like with the Mezo region. Hey everyone, Brandon here, and welcome back to another region review where we review different regions around the Fakemon community. Today we'll be reviewing the Mezo region by Lugi-Oh over on Instagram and DeviantArt. The Mezo region is actually based on the American Cordillera, which is a chain of mountain ranges that starts in South America, goes up through Central America, and into North America. So I promise the title isn't clickbait. Latin America is in there, but you also have a little bit of North America thrown in there and a little bit of South America cut off. Latin America was just easier to describe this with because I feel like a lot of people know what Latin America is and don't really know what the American Cordillera is. I mean, I didn't until this video. Anyway, before we hop into the Mezo region, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to help support this channel and to keep up to date with future videos. Also, one more thing before we get started, I actually stream on Twitch, so if you would go over there and follow me and show some support, I'd greatly appreciate that. I stream over there about 5 to 6 days a week with Pokemon Nuzlocke, other challenge runs like Ironmon, just chatting streams, variety content like Fall Guys, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you guys would head over there and give me a follow. Anyway, let's get started with the grass starter for the region, and for this we have Ivig and Iguave and Guavera. That's right, we have the entire line in one post. That is one thing that the Mezo region does differently. Another thing that this region does differently is they go for the more classic Ken Sugimori art style with a more kind of painted watercolor look to it. It gives a lot of these designs that original Gen 1 kind of look and feel to them. Anyway, as far as the designs, Ivig is so freaking darling. I love it. It really is a cute little lizard Pokemon, and it does a really good job of varying from Trico, who we already have as like a, you know, a lizard, grass lizard starter. It honestly gives me Mudkip vibes, and I love that about it. As far as Iguave, it's a nice step up. It kind of has that kind of teenagery syndrome, kind of that Charmander to Charmeleon kind of feeling to it. And then finally Guavera, I think this thing is epic. It gives like, it's like a combo. It's like, you know, Venusaur mixed with Charizard and that kind of feeling it gives off. As far as inspirations go, I can't see any under the description or in the Dex entries that they do over on their DeviantArt. Make sure to check out their DeviantArt, by the way. It has all the Dex entries and stuff like that, but they doesn't you know, list any of the inspirations. So I'm just gonna have to kind of guess. And to me, this Guavera kind of looks like it has, I think the term is Mayan. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know 100% the difference between Incan, Mayan, and Aztec. I don't know the 100% difference there. I know they're all kind of Central America based, at least. That's about all I know, though. I don't want to pretend like I know more than I do, but it kind of just has that kind of look to it. Next up, we have our fire starter, and we have Fuecoat, Barbacoat, and Charcoat, and those names are just so brilliant. Fuecoat, like a, you know, kind of has that Fuecoco. I mean, we already, you know, this was premiered before we even knew of the existence of Fuecoco. Then you have Barbacoat, like barbecue, and then you have Charcoat, which is like charcoal or char, you know, kind of that Charmander, Charmeleon, Charizard feel to it. These are all based on the Coati, and I actually made a Coatimon for Cornera, which is Security and Coat Titan. Those two are based on Coatis as well. So I love the Coati. I think it is a stellar looking animal, and this translates into a fire starter really well. Like the tail specifically on Fuecoat is actually really cool and has that kind of a flamey element to it without it being a direct flame. I do kind of wish that Barbacoat and Charcoat kind of followed through with that and still had that kind of fiery tail going on for them. Charcoat I really like because it stays on all fours. You know, Fuecoat starts on, you know, 2 legs, and then when you go down to Barbacoat and Charcoat, which are on 4 legs. Appreciate that. A lot of starters in the recent years have been getting more and more anthropomorphized, more, you know, humans with just, you know, animal heads kind of thing going on. Anyway, Charcoat's really cool. I like it as a final stage. It reminds me of Ursa Luna in the, like, kind of the way it feels, like the epicness, the way it holds itself. It kind of has that intimidation factor to it. Next up, we have our water starter for the region, and we have Wavern, Lindwake, and Levidron. I am not 100% certain what these are based on, but to me, they feel like they're based on, they kind of look and feel like Lapras a lot, like very much so like Lapras. If Lapras was like a 3-stage Pokemon, I feel like this is what this would be. And I mean, I appreciate that. I love Lapras and I love these designs. It gives me really cute energy for Wavern. It like actually speaks after my heart and actually makes me want to pick this as my starter over the other two, just because I feel so familiar. It feels so familiar. It feels like coming home, right? But then Levidron gives this kind of edgy, epic feeling. Its shell almost looks like the crown of Slowking. Like I said, this classic art style really evokes that kind of Gen 1 feeling. I kind of love how Wavern has like this sand dollar on its back, and then Lindwake it evolves into more of like a kind of spiral shell, and then Levidron we kind of get that Slowking crown to it with its like edgy spikiness. Definitely one of those things where it's like the like edgy cousin of Lapras, where it's like, don't ride on me, please don't, I will poke you, I'll stab you. As far as the starters go, I definitely have to pick Wyvern. I mean, the whole line is really stellar, and like I said, really evokes that same feeling that Lapras gives me, and I love that. Next up, we have Spagnoth, Lothrum, and Behemoth, and they are a ground type and then ground grass type sloth Pokemon, and I think they do a stellar job at separating this from the other sloth line, which is Slackoth, and I adore this. Spagnoth is so cute. I love the little closed eyes, you know, kind of like feeling, you know, it just feels kind of content. He has that like contentment to him. And then Lothrum has that same kind of thing, that same very like, they look like they're cozy in their fur, like their fur is just like cozy, they're just like cuddled up with themselves, they're like that's nice. And then Behemoth I additionally love because it's based on the Megatherium and the fact that sloths are so slow and move so slowly that sometimes they'll grow moss on their backs, which is just so cool. Really clever concept and a way to incorporate it into a design, because it kind of just looks like a little grass cape. And I like the colors that they chose, because it's not like a bright vibrant green. It's kind of a darker, more like subdued, mossy, like it kind of looks like the moss mixed with the fur, you know, that kind of coloration. And honestly, this line is I think it's so stellar for real, because I just really like the progression of the design, and the final level just kind of feels like, you know, earned. I don't know, there's something about this one that I would definitely pick. I would definitely have a Spagnoth on my team to begin with. Next up, we have Halbird, Tomahawk, and Faradox. And can I just say those first two names are freaking incredible? Halbird and Tomahawk. I love that. That's amazing. So we have Steel, and then Steel Fire, which is interesting to me. I don't really see the fire type incorporation except for in the coloration, but it shares that coloration with Halberd and Tomahawk. Anyway, these are some sharp looking birds, and I don't mean in like the looking handsome sense, I mean in the literal sense. They look like they would stab you, slice you. You don't want to be around them. You don't want to cuddle them. And I kind of love that about them. So far, what I'm noticing a lot of with Lugi-Oh is they managed to capture that Gen 1 feeling where a cute thing becomes epic thing. It feels like there was a lot of that in Gen 1 in particular, and I feel like they've really kind of captured that energy with a lot of these mods that I'm seeing so far, so I'm very excited to continue going. I really like how these aren't steel flying at all. They're just pure steel ground-based birds for our, you know, kind of Route 1 bird Pokemon, and then it eventually becomes kind of like a raptor, and it kind of looks like they also mixed in a cassowary in there as well. They kind of managed to capture that ambiguousness that a lot of Pokemon have, where you kind of can't tell exactly what they're inspired by. Some you can, some are like kind of like a hodgepodge of different concepts. So I think that Lugi-Oh did this well with this line. Next up, we've got Beluga, Arcticorn, and Narpoon, and these things are adorable the whole way through. And instead of going from adorable to epic, it's just pure adorableness the entire way through. Beluga is this cute little baby beluga whale, you know, pure ice type, which is interesting because I feel like it should be ice water, and then it should evolve and then lose the water typing, considering it gains legs at the end. But anyway, I think what's a really interesting design element is that it goes from, you know, being furless to having this kind of like mink kind of over its shoulders, to the mink being incorporated into the design. So like now it's like got fur, which is so interesting for a whale Pokemon. And also it becomes bipedal, which is kind of crazy. Usually, like if it's going to be like some kind of water-based Pokemon, then it stays either water-based or like, you know, fin-based, or it, you know, starts with legs and then keeps them. But I don't think I've ever seen a Mon do that. I'm probably talking out of my butt here. Probably it happened, and someone's gonna correct me in the comments. You guys always do. This is another one I would probably have on my team. I'd hate to fill up my slots so quickly, my team slots so quickly, but honest to God, I just love this line so much. Next up, we've got Sprite and Fable Fly, and this is kind of wild looking. We go from this incredibly cute, like very long limbed. I thought that was just a part of its wings, but those are actually legs. That's kind of crazy. And then we go to this like gremlin looking fly, which is still keeps that bug fairy type, which is cool because kind of gives that same fairy typing as, you know, the Grimmsnarl line. But this is freaking crazy. It's almost, is this supposed to be like Chupacabra? like inspired. And also, no, this is definitely what's it called? Is it Gremlins? Is it Gremlins that it's called? Gremlins, yes, the 1984 film. I definitely didn't just look it up at all. Anyway, yeah, kind of given that don't feed it after midnight thing, I wonder if like there's some kind of evolutionary method where if you give it like a Poke, a berry or a Pokeblock after a certain time period, it would turn in from Sprite to Fable Fly. I don't know, maybe something like that. I think it'd be really cool. Next up, we have Slumbug and Duststorm, and this thing is so cute. Slumbug, it's like slumber plus bug, and then Duststorm. I'm not sure what Duststorm is supposed to be 100%. I'm not seeing the inspiration 100%. Like, I get Slumbug is supposed to be like, a bug with kind of like a, sleeping hat on, but I'm not 100% sure what Duststorm is. Like it sounds like Duststorm, but it almost is giving me like Slender Man with the tentacles. Is that what it's supposed to be? Like kind of like a nightmare? It's still asleep. I'm not 100% certain on this one, but regardless, it looks pretty cool. It almost looks like it's like got like, the what's it called? The sleigh. What's the bottom part of the sleigh called? The thing that I don't know. Next up, we have Munchip and Monchuk, which are both fairy, and Munchip is crazy looking, dude. This guy's wild. He's cracked out of his mind. He's a nutcracker. He's cracked. Oh my gosh. Did I just do that? He's a chipmunk nutcracker. That's hilarious. I love that. Wow, that's such a clever and fun concept. And then we have Munchuk, which is kind of this he's giving me like the kings, I don't know, like in Mario Land. Am I saying that right? Mario Land? One of those like classic Mario kings. I don't know why it's giving me that. It's just that's the kind of energy I get from it. Or even the like cat king from Ni no Kuni. It's also kind of giving me that energy as well. But these two are just so funny. I love it. I love them a lot. And this is, I guess this would be our Route 1 rodent, wouldn't it? But it doesn't have that normal type, so I'm not 100% certain. Next up, we've got a regional Cottony and Whimsicott, and they are based on tumbleweeds, it looks like, but they're still grass fairy, which is kind of, I don't know how to say it. I don't really like that. I'll be 100%. I mean, if you're gonna do a regional form, you might as well, change the typing, because why, Game Freak has never done a regional form where they have not changed the typing, and it kind of nullifies the point of a regional variant if you're not going to change the typing with the design. Kind of doesn't make sense for something to evolve into a different design if it's not going to change its typing as well. That's just my personal opinion. But as far as the design goes, I think these are solid. Tumbleweed plus Cottony and Whimsicott is something I wouldn't have thought of, but makes so much sense now that I've seen it. I really like how the horns of Whimsicott have turned from these like kind of sheep horns into these kind of more brambly vines. I really like that little design detail. Next up, we've got a regional Petalil and Liligant, and we got the same situation here where, regional variant without the type change. These look like a grass fire type to me. I would have done Petalil grass fire and then Cottony grass ground. That kind of just feels like those, they are, what's the word? Counterparts. That's the word. They're kind of counterparts in Gen 5. So I think it would have made sense for one to have fire type and then ground type, one's weak to the other. Kind of same dynamic there. The designs of these are so solid. I really enjoy them. They kind of incorporate a marigold rather than a whatever flower Liligant was before, and Petalil, I guess. And they incorporate a kind of Latin style of dance. I think it's some kind of Mexican folk dance, because I mean, it's marigolds, and marigolds are simply, kind of associated with Mexico, with the Dia de los Muertos and stuff like that. And so I think these are so cool. I just wish they had changed that typing. That's my only little gripe about these two. These both, the Petalil as well as the Cottony lines. I just wish they had changed the type. Next up, we have a regional variant for Arbok. We have normal Ekans here. Obviously, they include the whole line, but normal Ekans evolves into a brand new form of Arbok, which looks like it's based on cowboys, and it's got the Calavera face paint as this little, chest marking, or would you call that the snake's chest? I guess. I don't know what the proper terminology is for that, but it also looks like it's got partial rattlesnake inspiration. Kind of looks like it's got like a whip as its tail. So many different aspects to this that I really like, and I think this is a really good example of a regional variant. Poison fire type is a sick type combination, and all the aspects just really incorporate well into Arbok's already existing design. Next up is Pygmy and Quibara. So cute. Oh my goodness, Pygmy! I love it. This kind of looks like, is this the Route 1 rodent? That's kind of giving, this is what the feeling it gives me, is that this is the Route 1 rodent. Maybe they just didn't kind of order this in the same kind of traditional way one would, but yeah, this is based on, like, I assume a hamster. I'm not 100% certain. Looks like a hamster that evolves into a capybara. I feel like capybara should, I don't know. To me, a Route 1 rodent, like, that's based on the capybara should be like normal water. That's just me. I know we already have Bibarel for that, but, you know, capybaras are semi-aquatic, so I figured, why not? But, oh, ow, I just hit my elbow so hard. Ow. Next up, we have Puffridge and Algador. Algador? I don't know. Puffridge is so freaking adorable. There's so many adorable mons in this region so far. You know, one way to my heart is really cute mons, and the other door to my heart is epic mons. And the Mezo region just knows how to do them. I don't know. I feel like I'm getting repetitive at this point, but they just really know how to do those. Puffridge is just, they got that, there's a certain kind of eye, like the black with the, you know, big ring of black with the white in the middle that just evokes a level of cuteness. And then Algador is giving me Swellow kind of energy, that kind of vibe, as well as like Talo. And it kind of has like, you know, Talo's Gen 3 sprite has it like going like ah at you, and that kind of has that same kind of thing going on there. Ice flying type is such a sick type combo, and only 2 Pokemon currently have it, and that's Articuno and Delibird. And so give an adorable Puffin Pokemon an epic type combo, and you've got a match made in heaven. Next up, we have Scrubbles and Swabber, and oh my god, this dude's giving Trainer Mats a run for his money as far as the cuteness factor of his Pokemon. This thing is a little like dog that's like kind of like a loofah. It looks like kind of or a mop or something, where it's got like these suds underneath it. Water normal type, that's a fun type combo. And I can't even, they're so cute. I have nothing else to say, and just marvel at how adorable these are and how clever the kind of concept is. That kind of mop mixed with like shaggy dog kind of thing going on there. That is so, just so unique and fun and cute. I can't get over it. Scrubbles is on the team, guys. I'm just gonna say Scrubbles is on the team. Next up, we have Heatrid and Disgorge, and that is an epic looking mon. I really like that. The fire dark type mixing in with this kind of demonic feeling. It almost like has like a bug kind of feeling going on to it, but then like when it evolves, it's kind of got like a reptile thing going on there. I'm not 100% certain. Like, I have no clue what this could be possibly based on, but maybe dung beetle. I don't know, because like the first one feels like a dung beetle. It has that kind of orb on its back. I don't know, man. It's really cool, whatever it is. I think this is a solid, really epic design. Next up, we have Samner and Nightmare, and they are psychic fairy type dreamcatcher Pokemon, and that it completely makes sense. I mean, for a second, I'm like wondering where their eyes were, but I realized it's that little jewel in the middle that's supposed to be their eye. Kind of that like that sigilla thing where you're not quite sure how it sees. These are some definitely solid object Pokemon. I feel like object Pokemon are often overlooked by the Fakemon community. A lot of people favor making really cool, you know, elemental animals and stuff like that, but there's some really cool object Pokemon that deserve love, and this is one of them. Very good example of how you can make a object Pokemon, or an object, feel like a Pokemon. And it feels like a very natural evolution, you know, one little Dreamcatcher evolving into the ones that have like the 2, you know, big Dreamcatcher and the smaller little Dreamcatcher. Kind of that, like, you know, Magnemite to Magneton kind of feeling. Next up, we have Jitternut and Cavinifor. These things are wild looking. Jitternut gives me like Majora's Mask vibes, and then this Caffinivore, like, is it supposed to be like carnivore plus like, well, I don't know what that kind of plant is, but it's definitely one of those like man-eating plant looking things, like Audrey 2 kind of vibes to it. Jitternut looks like it's on something, like it just had like a double shot of espresso and it's ready to just take on the world. Next up, we have Pinwin and Winstrom, and wow, that is clever. I really like the hummingbird mixed with the pinwheel, and then the evolution, it's almost got this like jet feeling to it, like or like a, yeah, just kind of like a jet feeling to it, or a drone maybe. I really enjoy that. It's such an interesting like evolutionary path, like a pinwheel to a jet. Such an interesting design story there. Also, they're pure flying types, which I love pure flying type. Honestly, I'm excited to get more pure flying types. We had a couple in Gen 8, and I'm excited to see more. We need more pure flying types, folks. We only had Tornadus for a while. I mean, come on. Next up, we have Prancerd and Land Speed, and I think I know what these are based on. These are based on the Pronghorn, which I made Idolope and Fantasy based on for Cornera. Prancerd is definitely in a cuteness battle with Fantasy. They both have those adorable big eyes. I love it. It's giving me Bambi a lot, like giving me very much Bambi energy. And I like the ground fighting type. I don't, you know, a lot of people don't like to incorporate the fighting type into quadrupedal Pokemon, but I think that is so fun. Like, I mean, we have the Swords of Justice, which are all quadrupedal and part fighting type, and they're super cool designs. So I think more people should do that, you know, that kind of thing where it's the fighting type quadrupedal, you know. I also like the name Land Speed because it's like land as in ground and speed, you know, as in speed, but you know, put them together, it's Land Speed, which is like, you know, the land speed record kind of thing. Next up, we have Dracula and Vampire, and these things are so cool. I really like it. It's the bug dark type, which we don't currently have in the games as of this point. And I just think that's so great. I just, like, it's just this cute little tiny, like, you know, there's those little spiders that you see. Some spiders, super scary. Some spiders are just these cute little guys that are just like, hey man, what's going on? And then and then Dracula takes that, you know, whole little, hey guys, what's going on spider, and turns it into those really scary spindly leg spiders, now with like a freaking bat wings and bat ears, and like it's got the X on the back. It's kind of giving the, you know, Black Widow vibes. I think this line is really cool, and I can imagine Vampire flying through the skies, and the thought of a flying spider is terrifying to me. I don't want it to continue on that thought any longer. Next up, we have Beetle and Bedazzle, and I would have named it Bedazzle because Bedazzle is a word, so I probably would have gone Bedazzle, like Beetle plus Bedazzle. We already had Beetle there, like as in bead. Anyway, Bedazzle is based on the Aztec pyramids you can find around Central America, which is so cool. It kind of is in that same vein as Paris and Crustle, where it's a bug with a big thing on its back, which I kind of love that design aesthetic. Bug with big thing on back is just, I don't know, weird. It sounds so caveman-y when I say that. Bug with big thing on back. All this to say, I really like these two Pokemon. Next up, we have Rwana and Rapayma, and they're pure water types, and they're based on Arowanas and Arapaimas. And I think it's kind of funny that they both just slashed the A off of the name of the animal they're based on. These designs remind me of the children's book, The Rainbow Fish. I read that when I was a kid. I've read it to my daughter. And it kind of gives me that same feeling. I really, really like that kind of evoke that emotion out of me. And honestly, Rwana definitely gives that first stage vibe, you know, Goldeen, Magikarp, Feebas, all gives that same energy. And Rapayma has a certain elegance to it, like the Rainbow Fish. It has that elegance. I don't know if it's based on that, but to me, I can just kind of imagine the Rapayma that gives its really colorful scales away and makes all its new friends. I don't know. I just really love that idea. Next up, we have Alfalfa and Pachama. They're both grass rock type, and I love them so much. Alfalfa, so adorable. And I think it's actually supposed to be based on Machu Picchu, because I think there's alpacas, either alpacas or llamas, that hang around that area, and a lot of tourists will try and take pictures with Machu Picchu, and like the llamas or alpacas will photobomb them. So I think they're both trying to give off the kind of structures of Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu has kind of those like triangular kind of, you know, brick houses, and I think that's that same vibe this is giving off. Pachama is definitely elegant. It has that kind of like that pattern on its little saddle that kind of evokes that kind of ancient Latin American feeling to it. Is it sad that I wanted to say Emperor's New Groove is what it reminded me of? Get that Pachama, Kronk! Wrong Pachama! Next up, we have Embryo and Tybarug. I don't know about the naming on that one, but sorry, that name really caught me off guard. Just straight up Embryo. Like, you know, no, okay. Anyway, Tybarug, I really, really like. I really think it's cool that they mixed a, you know, kind of flying carpet with a stingray. That's something, one of those concepts that's like, it comes together so well once you see it. It makes so much sense, but you kind of wouldn't have thought of it. And the execution on it is really cool. Embryo, I'm sorry, for some reason, can't get over the name. Also, I kind of can't tell what's going on with the general design. It looks like it's kind of got that anime eye where, you know, they have the hair over the eye, but you can still see the outline of the eye. I always thought that was so strange. So not a super fan of Embryo. The name and the design are a little strange, but Tiburug, really cool. Next up, we have Milldust and Moldu. Oh my god. I'm gonna lose my brain at how cute these things are. Fairy Poison type, because kind of evoking, like, it's just a cutesy little mildew Pokemon or dust Pokemon. And you know, it's dust plus mildew, and then Moldu, it's this like cute little fairy incarnation of mildew and dust, like dust bunny kind of energy to it, and it's so adorable. It is so freaking cute. I can't get over it. Okay, sorry, Milldust, I'm putting it on the team. It's cute. It's too cute. It's too cute not to. Next up, we have Reservant, Necturne, and Gardrone. I adore that they kept this pure bug the whole way through. They have been really good with the attention to detail. A lot of things a lot of Fakemon regions miss is the necessity of monotypes. A lot of regions will just do pure dual typed Pokemon, but a majority of most dexes in the actual Pokemon regions have a lot of monotypes. It's like 60 to 70% monotypes, I'm pretty sure. Or that might be a bit dramatic. I think it might be 50% monotyped Pokemon, which is crazy. And so a lot of people ignore that little detail, but I really like how Mezo has paid attention to it. The designs are great. Reservant is super cutesy, has this big butt. It looks like it's got it's like it's storing honey in its thorax. And then it evolves into a cocoon that is also a beehive, and then evolves into like a guard bee, like a drone bee, with like a beehive tail. And I think the beehive tail is a little bit one step too far as designs goes. I think that's a little bit of an over design, considering they have the kind of armbands that look like beehives. You know what, I think I know I just commented how I said I really adored how this was the pure bug the whole way through, but Gardrone I almost feel like should be bug fighting, because I like the idea of you having these wrist and leg guards that are also a hive. Like, that's really clever, but I can see how the pure bug type still makes sense. That the whole hive on the you know, butt thing is the only thing I probably would have changed about this, but aside from that, really solid line. I want to say I would probably have it as a backup for my team. I don't know if I'd put it on my like main team, but definitely like one of those ones I'd kind of keep in the PC and swap in and out. Next up, we've got Quartzel, Tropaz, and Peridot, and the names, the typing, the designs, all 10 out of 10. All 10 out of 10. I just adore this freaking line. My gosh, the whole way through. It gives very much that kind of Pidgey to Pidgeotto to Pidgeot energy. Very, very much so. I think these are partially based on the Quetzalcoatl because it's got Quartzel. Maybe that's, I don't know if that's me reading too much into it, but the idea of like the gems mixed with names of like birds is just incredible. Yet another one I would definitely put on my team. Peridot is such a good name. I really adore it. Next up, we've got Slugma and Macargo, but also a new evolution called Cauldropod, and my goodness, my freaking goodness, this design. It's got cauldron, it's got demon, it's got this kind of like mask going on with the horns, but the horns are also like the kind of tendrils that slugs have. It just all conglomerates into this amazing design. Like, I'm not really a fan of the Slugma and Macargo line, but if this was a real Pokemon, oh my god, would I take it. It incorporates the elements that were already there from Macargo and just makes them, just like turns it up to 11 with an amazing design. Next up, we have Wooper and Quagsire, but then another new evolution, which is called Gill Bender, and this thing's awesome. I think it's based on Ohms, or is it based on just the axolotl? Because, you know, axolotls are native to the Central America region. I'm pretty sure just Mexico. In fact, like, I'm pretty sure they're native to like one specific town in Mexico. I might be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure I researched it, and that, like, you know, the axolotls are only based on like one specific town in Mexico. Regardless, this is a great step up from Quagsire. They really played into what makes Wooper and Quagsire great, and then just made an evolution for it. I don't like, a lot of people miss the mark when it comes to evolutions for Pokemon. They make them feel so completely detached from the line. But this just feels like such a natural progression for it. It brings back the little kind of side fins that Wooper has in a new way, kind of making them look like kelp in a way. As well as like kind of a mane, almost making it look, you know, lion-like. It goes quadrupedal, which kind of reminds me of Mega Swampert in a way, which I love Mega Swampert. Honestly, I think that's a really solid design. So probably why I like this so much, honestly, but it just does all the right things for a Quagsire evolution. Next up, we have Crustacean and Admantis, and my gosh, I love these. Bug water type. That's interesting because it's a shrimp Pokemon. I'm not exactly sure if shrimp are. Would you consider shrimp to be water bugs? Are they bugs, or would you consider crustaceans to be water bugs? I'm not sure. Anyway, this line I really like. Crustacean, once again, really, it's kind of derpy cute. It's a little derpy cute, but Admantis is giving me the same energy as those kind of guardian crustaceans that were from the movie Atlantis, the Disney movie, and I adored that movie. So this is giving me that same energy, and it is based on the mantis shrimp, which are super hyper colorful shrimp, and they even have kind of like feathers, like Mayan gods typically are depicted with kind of these like feathery appendages going on. They really know how to meld these concepts together in a way that feels very Pokemon. They really do a good job of that, and I commend them for it because thus far I've been very impressed. Next up, we have Protoken and Archeffect, which are electric psychic, and that's interesting to me. I would not have seen them as electric psychic, more so steel psychic, kind of like a Bronzong situation, but regardless, these are just object Pokemon. Once again, doing object Pokemon in a really stellar and unique way. Excuse me. Sorry. Doing object Pokemon in a fun and unique way. And honestly, Archeffect is kind of giving me the same vibes as that like floating head and hand boss from Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. I'm not sure if that was an inspiration, but that's definitely what I feel about it. It just gives me that same feeling. Next up, we have a regional form for Tentacool and a new evolution called Tentaquest. It's steel poison type, which is super fun. But these are unfortunately, I'm pretty sure, based on conquistadors, because that's why, you know, quest is in the name. It's supposed to be based on the conquistadors that came over and, you know, conquered Middle America, Latin America. Not great, but I mean, it looks cool. The idea of mixing the kind of helmets that the conquistadors had with Tentacool is a really cool concept, as well as Tentaquest. I really like how, you know, Tentacool has these kind of like jaw, and they changed that little jaw thing it has into a more of a like mustache, like a sharp blade looking mustache. Next up, we have a regional Growlithe and Arcanine that are fighting and then fighting Dragon. This is so epic. This Growlithe is, I don't see the fighting type as much, I won't lie. I would have gone like Dragon and then Dragon fighting, because I really get the Dragon feeling from Growlithe and Arcanine, because they're based on Foodogs already, but it's really playing into that kind of Foodog inspiration. I'm not 100% certain how the Foodog plays into kind of this like Mesoamerican, Latin American, you know, even North American inspired region, but regardless, I'm not complaining because they're freaking really cool designs. It very much feels in that same vein for me as Charmera from Artist Astray's Pangu region. We did a review of that, so check that out if you missed it. Next up, we've got Platoon, Sapolger, and Catacorpse. Wow, that's... I really like that. I really like that. I will say it's giving me like samurai, but the thing I like about it is that it's still giving me that kind of Mesoamerican feel. It looks like a samurai armor mixed with Mesoamerican kind of Mayan depictions of gods. And that's a very Game Freak thing to do. I mean, they've done it before where they take kind of the aesthetic of the region and then add in a kind of Japanese inspiration into it. A good example of that would be Sock and Throw, who are based on Oni, but they're also based on karate and judo. Can't forget judo. Throw is based on judo as well. This is another one that I feel like I would have on my team. The fighting rock type is a really cool type combo. Underused. I'm pretty sure Terrakion is the only one that uses it, if I'm not mistaken. I had it in my Cornera region a couple times, which I probably shouldn't have done so much, but I think it's really cool. Next up was Whizwhip, Whisper, and Whizwill, all dark flying type. I think that's super cool. It's giving me Whisper is definitely giving me like Robin from Batman and Robin, kind of that same vibe to him, and Whizwill is giving me Batman. I think I don't know if that was the intention or if that was an inspiration at all, but I still think that's fun. I don't really like this line per se. It's like not my favorite. It's still a good line, but I wouldn't call it my favorite by any means. Yeah, it's just, you know, it's just okay. Next up is Cryan, Weepstalk, and Tearwillow. I love that. Cryan like onion, and then Weepstalk as in like the stalk of, it looks like a leek. But then we have Tearwillow. I'd say the Tearwillow part of this line is the one that makes the least sense to me, because it feels, it's like onion tree. you know, it kind of doesn't like progress to me in that, like, it doesn't feel like a natural progression to me. It kind of feels like Tier Willow is like a part of its own separate line. I absolutely adore how Weepstock has like its tiers as using him to fight with like fists. That's so funny. Another thing about this line that I probably would have done with Weepstock and Tier Willow in particular is made them grass water type. I mean, you have tears, which are literally water from your body, being incorporated so heavily into the design. I probably would have incorporated that water typing into it. I could imagine an episode of the anime where Farfetch'd accidentally grabs a Weepstock instead of its leek, and then like the Weepstock becomes really angry and like tries to beat its butt with its tear fists, and I could just imagine the hilarity that would ensue in that kind of episode. Next up, we've got Hoot Hoot and a regional version of Noctowl that is now ghost flying. I will say, I think that this could have been its own mon. Like, you know, I said before that certain mons weren't enough of a difference. I think this is big enough of a difference to make it its own original mon. The face in particular being so vastly different from Noctowl kind of puts me off to it feeling like Noctowl. Like, you still got the horns that are the, you know, the great horned owl that Noctowl is based on. But it's still, it feels very much like too different for it to be still called Noctowl. Regardless of that little detail, I think it's a really cool design. I really like how they incorporated kind of more of a wispy, ghostly robe wing to it. I'm not sure. This seems like it could have some kind of like folklore ghost inspiration. Maybe there's some kind of ghost owl. I mean, I'm pretty sure there is a ghost owl, so maybe that's part of the inspiration. I just looked it up, and barn owls are actually called ghost owls, so that is definitely the inspiration there, and I really like that. I mean, the barn owl kind of has that, you know, little ridge down the middle of its face of feathers, and so Noctowl, this version of Noctowl has that very same thing. It's a really solid design. I just would have probably made it its own original evolution rather than a Noctowl regional variant. Next up is Spoink and Grumpig, and these dudes are so different. I love them. They're normal type, so they got completely rid of the pearls that are in part of their design, and Spoink has an apple now on its head, which is a fun little nod to like when people put apples on their head for like aiming practice and stuff like that. And Grumpig is like very different. This is another example of one that is like, less so than the Noctowl variant, but this one feels like it could have been its own original evolution. I mean, I would have even incorporated the apple into the design more. It kind of feels like Spoink, like, you know, Spoink and Grumpig both have the pearls, or like the, you know, the crystal ball kind of thing as incorporated in both the designs. That kind of ties them together. So maybe I would have had it in its mouth or something, kind of reference to suckling pigs. I don't know. I really appreciate making a regional form that is pure normal type. I don't think a lot of the community would have done this, but a normal type is an often overlooked type in the Fakemon community. I'm realizing as I'm saying this, like, I've said this like so many times about the Mezo region. Like, Lugi-Oh has been missing, like, picking up on those little details that I feel like a lot of people miss in the Fakemon community that just kind of makes Pokemon feel like Pokemon. There are a lot of normal types. There are a lot of water types. There are a lot of these little details that have been featured in the Mezo region, and that this is kind of a lesson, and like just kind of pay attention to those little finer details, and that can really make or break your region. Next up is Stantler and a new evolution, Enchantler. This is, again, before we had Weirdeer, so before everybody's like, Weirdeer, you know, this was before we had Weirdeer, so this is really clever. I love the name Enchantler, like kind of pulling in that Stantler. Like, Weirdeer is a really cool name, I won't lie, like Weird Deer, love that. But this is kind of like, I could even imagine this as a split evolution of Weirdeer, like Stantler, Weirdeer, Stantler, Enchantler, love that. Normal ghost type was a new type combo at this time as well, before we got Hisuian, Zorua, and Zoroark. So all of these elements really like draw me to this. The, you know, little balls on Stantler's horns are now floating little orbs of ghostly energy. You kind of have these talismans hanging off of its antlers. What would you call it, like the prongs of its antlers? And you even have a little bit more ghostly energy coming from the prongs of its antlers up top and its tail. I think I probably would have removed the talismans. I think that's just one step too far, just a little bit too detailed. You know, Game Freak wants to keep it so that they don't have to, you know, make a full, you know, rendered 3D model with so many details. But besides that, I think it's an incredibly solid design, and a really just enchanting. It's just an enchanting design, and its name is Enchantler. It all just works. Next up, we've got Stuffle and Beware, and what did you do to my boys? Oh my god, they look so sad. So this ghost fighting and the whole way through, and Beware literally lives up to that name now. Like, it's Beware of this thing. Like, that looks like Beware has this kind of cutesy appearance on the outside, and then it's like terrifying when you really find out, like, if you like get too close, it could like maul you. This one, you look like you want to stay away from. What this reminds me of is Monzemon from Digimon, and then Waru Monzemon, the kind of good I mean, Monzemon's still a little creepy, but it's not as creepy. And then Waru Monzemon is like super like leans into that like stuffed bear, but like looks like it could really hurt you kind of vibe. The stitched togetherness of it makes so much sense because it has that Frankenstein inspiration sewn in there. I just sewn in. That wasn't even on purpose, folks. I'm just a comedic genius. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, that Frankenstein inspiration mixed with the stuffed toy inspiration kind of coming together and looking all stitched together and torn apart and then restitched together. It's just so perfect and works so well together. And so that's just another example of one of those things that once you see it together, you're like, oh yeah, duh. Also, ghost fighting is a sick type combination that only Marshadow has, I'm pretty sure. So it'd be really cool to see it incorporated into like a regular mon, a non-legendary or mythical mon, or even a regional variant like this. Next up, we have Rober and Ragnum. Oh my goodness. Huge Tangela vibes. I'm honestly, when I'm looking at it, it kind of gives me the same energy as that scrapped mon that I think like it eventually became Snorunt, right? There was that scrap mon that kind of looked like it had that like kind of pelts to it. That is the pose is evoking that for me. But I love these two. They're so Gen 1 feeling. They just feel so Gen 1. Like, this is a Pokemon, like it's giving me Tangela vibes, it's giving me that scrapped mon vibes as well. It's just like something that like this is kind of concept I don't feel like they would do nowadays. I will say there's just a little too much detail going on there with all the different clothes that are incorporated in there. I don't think that would have been able to incorporate into a Gen 1 game, you know, kind of like just too many colors. But besides that, I think the aesthetic and the vibe in general, it's giving off very much what was I saying? Oh yeah, Gen 1. Next up, we have Fluff and Duffalast, and oh my god, these things are so great. It's a reference to a pillow fight. I love that, the fighting fairy type, and it's giving me massive Kirby vibes with Fluff. Duffalast is great. You know, that whole vibe of you would like put, you know, strap the pillows to yourself in case I mean, a lot of kids, they, you know, in typical media, they would like put pillows all over themselves in a little helmet before they do anything dangerous, right? It's that same kind of energy to it. But the pillow fights mixed with like, you know, pillow armor and this concept is so incredibly clever. I really enjoy it. Next up, we've got Diglett and Dugtrio in their ground fairy type based on star nose moles. That's just adorable. It's just like a little simple change, just a tiny little simple change to make it feel all the difference. Because, you know, the star nose mole, it's literally a star. Then, you know, star nose mole isn't a perfect star, but these are perfect stars. And stars associated with the fairy type in space, you know, Clefairy kind of associated with the moon. So adding that fairy type in there makes a lot of sense, and I like the little whiskers they gave to Dugtrio. Brilliant. Really well done. Next up, we've got Skiddo and Muscoat. Oh baby, I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, Muscoat is ice poison. I thought it would be ice steel, especially based on the coloration, but wow, I really enjoy that ice type Skiddo. Wow. I love the fluffy kind of vibe it has going on to it. And Muscoat, I'm assuming is kind of musk, like it's some kind of musky goat. Like, I don't know if there's some species of species of goat that has like a particular strong musk that this is based on, but I enjoy it. It does look a little derpy to me. I know that the eyes are both facing the same direction, but to me it kind of looks like they're facing opposite directions. I don't know, maybe it's a perspective thing. But this is just a solid line, solid Skiddo regional variant and regional evolution. Next up, we've got Tinderin, Marmoset, and Lion Kong, all pure fire. That's awesome. It's based on a Tamarin, I'm pretty sure a Marmoset, and then like maybe a lion, what's the word? A lion-tailed macaque. I'm pretty sure that's the name of it. Lion-tailed macaque. But instead, they've actually mixed in full-on a lion inspiration. Like, it looks like part lion, part monkey. And that's cool, especially because you're mixing in that fire type. which fire type has kind of that flowy, you know, kind of Flareon vibe going on here with that, where it has that kind of flowy, fiery hair. Also, the Monster Hunter fan of me is screaming like Rajang, Blanganga, you know, those kind of monkey-esque monsters. That gives me that same feeling. Next up, we've got Limestone, Marblock, and Gorgranite, and this is great. It's a mixture of gargoyle, which these are the gargoyles from the gyms, which I love, that, like, you know, giving a little bit of lore to these, you know, statue Pokemon that we've been seeing this whole time. But also Limestone and Marblock are great. They're little tower like block Pokemon. I think that's great. I would say I think Gorgranite is, I don't know if they're part of the same line or if they're supposed to be. They feel a little too disconnected for me. I'm not sure if he like put some of these on the same page that were just like, hey, these ones are rock type and this one's also rock type, so maybe put it on the same page. They do feel a little disconnected. I'm not certain if they're supposed to be a part of the same evolutionary line. It doesn't feel like it to me, but regardless, all three of these mons are really cool. There's not much more to say about them. They're just really cool. Next up, we've got Eevee and a new evolution, Dungeon, and oh my gosh, duh. Like, I have never seen that name used for a dragon type before, because guess where dragons hang out? Dungeons, and dragons. Why has no one done this before? This is brilliant. I think the design of the evolution itself is pretty cool. For some reason, I can't put my finger on it, but it just feels slightly over designed, but I can't think of a thing to take away from it to make it feel a little less over designed, because everything feels like it fits the overall design. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my butt here. Probably. Usually am. But I think it's solid. The name and the design itself are both very solid, and I just love the name Dungeon. I love it. We've got ourselves Armorillo, which is rock steel type, and then Howitzer, which is also rock steel type. Oh my god, Howitzer. Oh my god, Howitzer, I should say. It's Howitzer. Oh my gosh, that's so great. So that's an armadillo that evolves into an Ankylosaurus, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be, which is 100% giving me Digimon, Armadillomon evolving into Digmon, or not Digmon, but Ankylomon. Love that. But Armorillo also has this kind of like ball and chain on behind it. I love this. I like, what I love too is that Armorillo's little ball and chain evolves in kind of a mace on Howitzer. And also it's named after a howitzer, which I'm pretty sure is a type of cannon. Brilliantly done, and it kind of, the face of Howitzer is giving me like Kangaskhan with the ears, so I adore it. I simply adore this line. Next up, we have Jalabrihe and Habanata. I'm pretty sure there's the Brihe part of that name is sounding very familiar, like Alabrihe. I'm pretty sure are those a kind of forest sprite or something like that? The name sounds very familiar to me, but mixing it with Pinatas is awesome. Also, the grass fire typing for a Pinata Pokemon, like, yeah, it's, you know, like the red, yellow, and green all make sense in a Pinata format. So I think that's super smart, super clever of Lugi-Oh to do that. And yet again, it's an object Pokemon, because it looks like a horse and then some kind of like monster of some kind. But it's still an object Pokemon because it's a Pinata, so really clever. Next up, we have Crystal and Calatrina, and my goodness, Crystal is such a Giga Brain name. Crystal, like the Crystal Skull. Also, is the Crystal Skull a part of this? I think it might be. But they're Ghost Rock type, and Calatrina has Calavera as its name. Calavera, skull in Spanish, like those kind of Dia de los Muertos looking skulls. That's like a Calavera. I'm pretty sure that's what that's called. But they're also based on the Sugar Skulls themselves, with the designs that they have embedded in them. And it goes rock type. I'm pretty sure maybe the rock typing is also a reference to rock candy. So overall, just the combination of concepts, there's so many different concepts like that are working together here, and they work together in such a way with such finesse and grace, and I love that about it. Next up, we have Luvdisc and a new evolution, Cupidisc, and that makes so much sense. Cupidisc, as well as it is a bow for a bow and arrow because of Cupid, and it has a little tiny little like mini Luvdisc follower that looks like an arrow, the end of an arrow. Incredibly clever evolution to Luvdisc. You know, Luvdisc has been one of those mons that's just like, why does this mon exist? You know, because like its base stat totals are not great. It doesn't evolve. what was the purpose of Love Disc? You know, besides it feels like such a filler mon. So making this evolution is just perfect. I really hope that Love Disc gets an evolution in the near future. Who knows? Maybe this will age well and Gen 9 will give us a Love Disc evolution. Maybe, I don't know. Next up, we got Torkoal, and it's a new evolution, Smeltork, which is Fire Steel type, and my goodness gracious, is this so good. Torkoal is another one of those mons that I felt like should have probably gotten an evolution, and this is such a great way of doing it. It's got Fire Steel type because of it's called Smeltork. It's based on a smelter, but as well as it has this kind of armor, kind of blacksmithy looking kind of aesthetic going onto it, as well as those little hexagonal divots in Torkoal's back. Well, they've been turned into these little divots on the back, as well as the bands around its neck and arms of Torkoal have been turned into these kind of like gauntlet looking, or like armored shoes almost. I am just so impressed by this evolution. I'm very genuinely impressed, and I really like it. I would have Torkoal on my team in the Mezo region just simply to get Smeltork. I know that makes 2 fire types on my team, but you know what? Whoever said I was good at team balancing. Next up, we've got Flangolf and Flamengriff. Bro. Oh my gosh, I adore this concept. A freaking flamingo griffin? Are you joking me? I genuinely don't think I've ever seen this kind of concept explored before, and I'm so in awe of it. Like, it looks so graceful and it fits so well. It doesn't, like, you'd think like a flamingo with 4 legs would feel a little bit weird, but it doesn't. It just, like, the flames kind of mixing into it gives me kind of a phoenix vibe, as well as that griffin and the flamingo all come together super well. I will say, even, I'll comment on the pre-evolution. Flangolf is also really cool looking. It kind of gives me Ducklet energy. Like, this almost feels like a rival to Ducklet and Swanna as far as that kind of, ugly duckling story. Swanna and Ducklet are water flying, and this one's fire fairy, so it kind of feels like they could be rivals. I genuinely think I'm gonna have to be like a fire type gym leader in Mezo, because all of these fire types are absolute bangers. Next up, we've got Mermaid and Laguna, and wow. I like how its name is Laguna, like not L-A-G-U-N-A. It's like L-A-G-O-O-N-A, like Lagoo, like as in goo or as in goon. I think that's super clever, and it's got this whole swamp monster vibe to it. I like how Mermaid is this cutesy little thing, and it kind of looks like it's supposed to have the mermaid's tail out of its hair, but then it evolves into this swamp monster that's completely gross. It's kind of like a reverse Feebas to Milotic, where it starts off really cutesy and kind of pretty looking, and then it turns into this complete monster. I love that. I might have to put this on my team. I just want so many of these mons on my team. I'm really enjoying all of them. Next up, we've got Seareed and Mursteed, water to water fairy, and they're based on seahorses. The Seareed kind of looks like an eel mixed with a seahorse, but then we've got Mursteed, excuse me, which I think is based on a hippocampus. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And that's really cool. A hippocampus Pokemon, water fairy type, the fairy type being, referencing the kind of mythical nature of a hippocampus, a water horse. Really cool and really good way of differing it from the already existing seahorse Pokemon, the Horsey line. So yeah, I think it's cool. It's not my favorite, but I think it's impressive. Next up, we've got Veggie and Hydraulis, which are water and then water ghost, and I don't know. There are no words anymore for how like cute these mons are. I literally can't describe them besides cute and adorable, because half these mons are. I don't know how I feel about it being water, not water grass, because like like vegetation, and then Hydraulis is water ghost, and hydraulics, I don't know, from something in me here is like steel type, so it's like water grass, water steel. That wouldn't make sense anyway. I'm not certain about the water ghost type, but I assume it's probably because of manatees having that issue with getting scraped on the back by boats, as well as maybe it's a reference to kind of like how Cursula has the dead coral, so maybe the coral mixing in with that whole manatee's endangerment issue. Maybe that's the whole vibe going on here. Not my favorite design in the world. I think that there's a little too much in the coral. Veggie is simple enough. I think that's good, but I think Hydraulis is just a little bit over designed, but I still like the concept in and of itself. It's a solid concept. Next up, we got Poisum, Nauseum, and then Fearsome. Those names, dude. Poison normal type for one, awesome. I think that's great. The names, dude, the names really make this line for me. Like, the design is pretty simple, the concept also pretty simple. You know, it's a possum that's a poison type, Poisum. But like the names, like Poisum and Nauseum and then Fearsome, that's just so good. And it's kind of giving me, like, you know, the striped pattern of Fearsome's giving me that kind of like robber, kind of criminal, behind bars, black and white, you know, robed thing. That's like long gone by now. Like, mostly prison uniforms are like orange now. You know, orange is the new black kind of thing. But this line is really cool, giving us a new type combo with poison normal type and doing it in a really fun way. Next up, we've got Vuju, Aminsense, and then Horaspex. That is Ghost Poison, and then Ghost Psychic. I will not lie to you, Vuju's eyes are incredible, giving me like Digimon eyes. Digimon have those like a rookie, not a rookie, but like an in training stage, or even baby stage. It's in training, yeah, no, in training. It's giving me in training stage Digimon, with that kind of like those big eyes, and that I could definitely see. I don't like for me, comparing something to a Digimon is not an insult in any regard. Like, there are some not super overly complex Digimon. I think a lot of the common consensus is that if you call something a Digimon, it means it's over designed. That's not necessarily true, especially with like the rookie and in training forms of Digimon. They're very kind of simplistically designed, a lot of them. Some of them are very complex, but Vuju definitely gives me that kind of in training or even baby Digimon vibe to it. But I think the whole line, like giving it like that voodoo, you know, voodoo witch, is really, really cool. It also, Vuju looks like, to me, it kind of looks like Scrump, Lilo's little, what's the word? Her little doll that she makes from Lilo and Stitch. All of this is really just cute. It's a cute way of doing a kind of interesting concept. Next up, we've got Delphian, and it's a water psychic type. I'm pretty sure this is some kind of river dolphin. Really interesting. I think it's just kind of simple. It just kind of looks to me like a dolphin drawn in a Pokemon style. I don't really understand the psychic typing besides the coloration. I feel like there should be something a little bit more to this, but I mean, a dolphin Pokemon, I really want it, so I mean, it's an A+ in my book. Next up, we've got Flowilder, and this is grass psychic type. This thing is straight up wild looking, and honestly, I think it's a really bit over designed. And you know how I said that Digimon are not kind of over designed in certain ways? This is a Digimon that this feels straight up like a Digimon to me, even down to the art style, that kind of thick line in the eye, mixed with the kind of like a little bit over designedness of it, for at least for a Pokemon. I think it's cool. It's a fun concept, but there's just a little bit too much going on. Next up, we've got Giltech and Sholoro, and I'm pretty sure they're based on Mayan and Aztec warriors, as well as the Sholo dogs. I think that's incredibly clever. Sholo dogs are kind of gray already, so it kind of leans into that steel typing, but they add in this kind of weaponry. I'm pretty sure that's a weapon. That's a specific weapon. I can't remember the name of it. It's a pretty long weapon name, but it's like essentially this wooden panel with like obsidian blocks in it, and it's super devastating. And so I think this is I honestly would have this on my team. It's supposed to feel like Lucario in a way, but it also is kind of just so different from Lucario as far as the kind of bipedal dog Pokemon. And I wouldn't even call it furbait at this point, because I don't think it doesn't give me that kind of aesthetic to it. It just kind of feels like a very serious warrior dog Pokemon. Next up, we've got Dragonda and Amazonda, and perfect. I'm pretty sure these are supposed to be based on the Quetzalcoatl. And that's great. And I like, oh my god, I just noticed this. The Amazonda's patterns, that like patterning on the back of it is just very like Mayan, Aztec, kind of that feeling, that kind of ancient, that ancient Mesoamerican feeling to it. And I love that they're pure dragon. They're not dragon poison, they're just pure dragon, because I'm pretty sure anacondas aren't poisonous. I'm pretty sure that's like the thing. Like, they use their size to kill their prey, and like they're constricting. And I love that. I really, it's simple. It's giving me like Ekans Arbok, you know, like it's that simple snake bond. You see why it's the type it is, and then it evolves into something with a little bit of an extra flair to it. Next up, we've got Aptiki and Oculi, and Oculi is staring into the very depths of my soul, and it's making me a little bit uncomfortable. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm looking away from it because I don't want it to look. It's looking at me, isn't it? It's looking right at me, isn't it? These are really cool though. I like the Aptiki, like Aptiki. It's Aptiki, isn't it? Or because it's optic, you know, plus Tiki, and then Oculi, Oculus plus II. Really cool. The designs are simple, but they get the point across. Next up, we've got Judojo and Jitsudo. I think using the headband as like its fists is such a interesting little design element to these. I think that's really clever and fun. It's giving me Ryu and Ken from Street Fighter in that way. I will say, though the designs are fairly different, I don't think this serves kind of the same purpose as Sock and Throw, in my opinion. Or even Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. Like, you know, Sock and Throw were supposed to be kind of the same thing as Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan for Gen 5. So it's another one of those where it's kind of like redundant in a way, but still cute. Next up, we've got Terrawat and Electerror. I like this. It's a dinosaur Pokemon that isn't actually a fossil, and I think that's really cool. This is kind of what I imagined that the electric type fossil, like the Zolts of the Galar fossils, would be kind of a Pterodon or a Pteranodon, excuse me, a Pterodactyl or something like that. But these are really cool. I like the incorporation of a lightning bolt into its face and its like kind of crest. Very clever, simple way of incorporating the design without being too crazy. Also, I just noticed its wings are also lightning bolts. So just 3 little lightning bolts, you get the point. It's a Pterodactyl or Pteranodon mixed with a lightning thing. It's simple and effective. Next up, we've got Dartuna and Javelin, and it's water to water steel. I like that. Water steel is a cool type combo. But as far as the design goes, simple for Dartuna, just kind of that, you know, typical fish Pokemon. I will say its fins look like the little tab on a like a Coke can, like a soda can. That's what that looks like to me. I'm not sure. Or, oh, is it the little tab to a like a tuna can? Is that what that's supposed to be? That's clever. Javelin, really cool. It's almost got like a trident, or not even a trident, like a sai, you know, like Raphael's sai from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's kind of giving me that energy. And it's just another simple incorporation of the steel type that makes sense. Next up, we have Natu and a regional Xatu, which is now psychic fighting, and it plays into that whole Native American inspiration because there is that North America part of the Meso region, like that inspiration in there. And I think it's cool. It kind of has more of a of the tan tone to it, which is kind of giving me like, it almost looks like a teepee. How it like spread out. It's like, it almost looks like a dress that like mixed with the teepee, mixed with the totemness of Xatu, and I think it works really well. Next up, we've got Thumbolo and Victor. That is so interesting. So it's an electric fighting type buffalo mixed with like a Viking inspiration, mixed with Thor and Mjolnir. It looks like it's got a Thunderstone in its hammer. That's interesting. I don't know 100% how I think it's cool. You kind of have the buffalo inspiration because, you know, buffaloes roam in the US and America. That is kind of a thing, you know, the home where the buffaloes roam and the deer and the antelope. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, the Viking inspiration is good. Like, not everything in a given region needs to be exactly based on its inspiration. You know, you do have buffaloes here and they added in a Viking inspiration. So I still think it's cool. I do think Thumbolo and Victor, it kind of feels just like Thumbolo got a hammer and then grew out its beard a little bit and then got a cape, you know. I guess it's that like Cinccino to Minccino kind of evolution style. Next up, we've got Dedenne, and it has an evolution of a creator after my own heart. It's got Antinope. I love that name because Dedenne is based on antennae, and so then you just add in the jackalope inspiration in there, and so it's got antenna horns, and it just works so well. These concepts just come together so perfectly, and I love how different his Dedenne evolution is from mine, and it's just so fun. This region is so fun. Okay, let's keep going. Next up, we've got a new Gumi regional line, and this was, again, I'm gonna state this again, this was before Hisui, so no one be like, oh, Hisui, and yeah, anyway, it's Dragon Fairy type, and it's based on the Sea Dragon, the blue, I'm pretty sure blue Sea Dragon. And to me, I don't know how I feel about the fairy typing for this. Fairy typing feels a little bit misattributed for this. I feel like it would be water type. It's like, if you're gonna make it based on the blue dragon, I feel like it's just, the blue dragon is a aquatic, you know, kind of slug, and it's blue, so it's like kind of just feels water typey to me. Maybe I would have done a different kind of slug inspiration. That being said, these designs are freaking stellar. They're so cool. They really work well onto Goomy. I know I had the Goomy that was dragon water type in my Goomy of every type. That was also based on the blue sea dragon, and everybody's been asking me where's Sliggoo and Goodra. Well, you know, here's what that one would probably look like, at least. Next up, we've got Numbrill and Urquill, and this is cute. They're based on lionfish, but they also mixed in a cat, and that's really clever. Poison, dark, because lionfish are particularly very poisonous. The dark typing I'm not getting 100%. Regardless, I think I love the idea of lionfish mixed with lion. We had it in Fake Man's region, and I just thought that was super clever, and I think that this concept is different enough from that, you know, kind of concept that it makes it really cool and unique. Next up, we've got Tarpit and Oliquid, and it's ground, pure ground. I would have made it ground poison. This is a perfect Pokemon for ground poison type. But I love the name. It's Tarpet. I said Tarpit, but it's Tarpet, like as in a Tarpit like a Tarpit pet. That's great. And then Oiliquid. I said this so wrong. Oiliquid. Man, I said their name so wrong. But it's kind of giving me like Eldritch Monster, Oil Monster. Like it's mixing in like kind of the oil from the ground. Oh, that makes sense. Oil comes from the ground, Brandon. I still would have done the ground poison type. It's like they're mixing in like kind of the oil, the tar pits, all that kind of thing comes together. Just feel like poison type really works well for that. I don't know, that's just me. Next up is Cataiga and Catundra Ice Steel type. Sorry, I'm having a mental break here. Cataiga is so adorable, and then Catundra is so freaking epic. It's the cute epic dynamic. That's what I'm calling it. Cute epic dynamic. If you see me in future region reviews, there's gonna have be a cute epic dynamic, and this definitely has that. It's got the little, it's not overly designed. You can feel the steel type from its steely fangs, and it's kind of steely white coloration mixing in with that the tundra part, the ice part, where it's got these like fractally patterns in its fur. Perfect. Next up, we've got Iceros and Glacieros, and they're both fighting ice type, and I'm thinking that these might actually both be the fossils. Catundra and Glacieros might be the fossils, but instead of fossils, they're the ice age. That's kind of a concept that's been done in a few different regions. So this is really cool, going for that ice age thing. I think this is supposed to be based on the Elasmotherium, that big unicorn woolly mammoth with like a big unicorn horn. Pretty sure that's what this is based on. But I think it's really cool. You kind of see that fighting typing kind of looks like it's got this armory vibe to it, this armored vibe, and it looks like it's going to charge, and that, you know, fighting typing. And it's another example of those quadrupedal fighting types that I really like. Next up, we've got Volbeat and a new evolution, Flylights, which is bug electric type, and it's cool. It's leaning more into the greaser vibe. You know, kind of Volbeat's supposed to be kind of based on that kind of greaser thing, but we're going more in a direct way, and it's giving me Elvis. And I like that they connected the antennae to make it kind of look like a light bulb, which, you know, light bulbs have that little, you know, part in the middle. At least the older light bulbs did, not LEDs anymore, but it's really cool, and it's a very fitting evolution to Volbeat. And it's a bug electric type is really cool. I think I see a lot of bug fighting evolutions for Volbeat, but I think a bug electric type works really well. I'm assuming we're gonna get an Illumise. Yep, we've got Illumise, and it evolves into Flylight as well. So I guess this is a Flylight female version, and I guess it's a case of convergent evolution where Illumise and Volbeat, you know, evolve into the same thing, but just a, you know, a different, you know, under a different name. I kind of feel like that's kind of the same thing with Nidoking and Nidoqueen. Like they're the, you know, same kind of Mon, but they just are named different things. But yeah, also that bug electric typing, and it's kind of looks like it's got its antennae are hairpins, but they also look like the inside of a light bulb as well. I like the cute little shades it has. It looks like it instead of rather than like more of a flapper girl, good girl kind of thing, it kind of looks like it's also leaning into more of a greaser thing, kind of like a Sandy from Grease, where, you know, good girl gone, you know, bad, and then there's the reverse where there's the bad guy gone good, in Greece at least. But anyway, next up we've got Quansla, which is poison electric, and this thing is giving me huge Chaos from Sonic vibes, except like an electric type, and just like this electric goop that like It's something straight out of Mario, like where you would like step in this goop, but it's like electrified goop. Like that it gives me that kind of energy to it, like that aspect of Mario mixed with that aspect of Sonic. Is Sonic and Mario at the Mezo Olympics. It's really cool. It's a creature. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to, is it some kind of legendary? I wonder if it's some kind of legendary or mythical Pokemon, because it's very like kind of single stage. So that's another thing I just noticed that I don't think saw much of is single stage Pokemon in this region. That's one detail I think that a Lugi-Oh might have missed out on. But next up, we've got Spagnoth and Phototon. They're both pure electric, and this thing is so adorable. It's giving me like Eve vibes from Wall-E. And I love that. I love that about it so much. So it's just this little robot that evolves into a satellite. That's adorable. Oh, I'm looking at the description. It says it goes from Spagnoth to Phototon, Marathon, Terraton, and Avaton. So I guess this is gonna be kind of like a Rotomon. And we have Marathon, like it said in the thing. It's a little submersible, a little tiny submarine, and that's super cute. Let's see, is there? Yep, there's Terraton, which I guess is based on the space exploration. The what are they called? The space vehicles. What are they called? The all-terrain vehicles, that space terrain vehicles. The ones that are on Mars. You know what I'm trying to say. Electric ground type, though, that makes a whole lot of sense because it's on the ground exploring. And then we have Avaton. Avaton, the last airbender. Wow, oh my gosh, that works because it's flying type. When the world needed it most, it flew away. But Avaton, like I said, is electric flying type, and it's based on planes, and that's cool. I love Spagnoth. This is such a clever little concept. A little robot that evolves into different technologies. Super cute. I will say, I wish Phototon had been electric steel type, because it kind of makes more sense to me. I don't know why you would have like one form that was pure type, but the rest of them are dual types. I don't know. Next up, we've got Aceling, Origal, and Quenzuru. Ooh. So we have a Birdmon that evolves into like kind of like a what's the word? A Garuda. Like or there's a version of it in Japanese mythology as well. But like kind of that bird, half man kind of thing going on, like Angel from X-Men. Fairy flying type, that makes sense. It kind of looks like a superhero. It really does. It's got like the mask on Aceling, and then Origal also has it. Is Origal supposed to be like origami? Like, is it supposed to be like origami? Oh, it looks like this thing is Aceling female, so I guess there's going to be a male version. We have Aceling male, and it's I'm just noticing that the little legs kind of have like an origami fold to them. And then we have Oriole. Like, is that supposed to be like Oriole or origami or royal? Maybe royal. It's supposed to be like a royalty. And then we have Kinzuru, which is fairy dark type. Oh, I just got it. These are spades and hearts. This one's based on spades. The other one's based on hearts. Blacks and reds, of cards. And it's a king and queen of hearts and spades. Oh my gosh, it's all coming together. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, it's still giving me that kind of superhero energy to it, as well as like king superhero mixed together. That's a really cool concept. I like that. It's that Nidoking, Nidoqueen kind of thing going on there that I really enjoy. I think that kind of concept doesn't really get explored a lot in the Fakemon community, or even in like Pokemon really hasn't explored that kind of concept since. Have they? Like a huge split divergent evolution based on gender, like 3 stages like that. Next up, we've got Tapiro, and it is a fire psychic type, and I'm pretty sure this one is supposed to be one of the legends of the region. These are the last 3, I'm pretty sure, of the region. I could see these kind of guys at the top. I didn't look into them too much, but it's a Tapir mixed with a Pyro, fire. It's kind of a little bit basic for a legend, I won't lie. The design is a little bit simplistic for a legendary Pokemon. I mean, that being said, there's very simple legends like Mew and Mewtwo, so I can't be too judgmental in that department, but I don't know, something about it doesn't feel quite legendary to me, but I don't, maybe that's just me. Next up, we have Jungwar, which is Jaguar plus Jungle plus War, I guess. Maybe Jungwar, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure. But it's ground psychic type. It's really cool. It's reminding me of that giant like Jaguar statue that chased Miguel and Tulio in El Dorado at the very end. It very much reminds me of that, and I love that movie, and I loved that statue. I thought that statue was super cool, super neat monster design, and this evokes that for me, and I really like it. Again, I'd say it's a little simple. I think this is better than Tapiro as far as feeling like a legendary Pokemon, because it kind of has that kind of blocky, like very like statuesque feeling to it. I mean, that's me also thinking of the statue from the movie, but still, it kind of has that pose to it. Next up, we've got Escari and its Ice Psychic type, and I don't know, man. I like this one. I think this is one of the most like disappointing designs to me. It just feels like a monkey that got like ice eyes. You know, it doesn't feel like a Pokemon per se. It kind of just feels like a monkey with a little bit of an Eskimo mixed in there, but it just feels a little too simplistic to me. That's I would say like a little bit of it kind of sucks because it feels like we didn't stick the landing as far as the legendaries. Like the rest of this region was stellar, but the legends feel like they kind of fell flat a little bit for me. But there is one more legendary that isn't on their Instagram that I know is on their DeviantArt, so we're gonna check that out real quick. The final mon of the Meso region is Mew 3, and it is a dark type. I think this concept is incredibly cool. They made it feel different enough from Mewtwo and Mew itself, and gave it a dark, or like an entirely new typing. So I think it's really cool. It kind of combines aspects of Mewtwo and Mew 3. It got a more sleek design, even more jagged and like edgy to really evoke that dark typing. It feels like a mistake, like that when they were trying to maybe they were trying to replicate Mewtwo and then Mew 3 was born. And it's just like it's like Mewtwo's Rampage, but Mewtwo didn't come to understand humans and he just completely demolished everything. Like that this is like the darkest timeline for Mewtwo is what that feeling the feeling I get from it. This is just a very, very cool design. And that was the Meso region, so make sure to let me know what you think, what your favorite mon was, and maybe what your team would be. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to support this channel and keep up to date with future videos. Thank you so much to Lugi-Oh for letting me review this region. It was really awesome. And thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Go follow my Twitch.